Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice lunch. I wanted to say a quick note on the dinner and the guided tour. As you may know, the guided tour will start at the main entrance of this Keizer building, so just where we took the group photo. And we will leave at 7, so it would be great if everyone could be there at 10 to 7. And also for the joint dinner, for the people who aren't coming on the tour but are going to the dinner, please also be in time because it's a buffet dinner that will be served between 8:30 and 9:30. For the next session, also please, if you want to interact on the Telegram channel, you can post your questions and comments for the speakers. And someone said that they lost, or someone has lost their mobile phone. It has been found and is at the registration desk. Oh, you... okay, it's right there. So... Thank you. Thank you. Our next session is entitled Advancing Quality Standards and Evidence-Based Practice with Families in Europe. Our chairperson is Felix Barajas. He is Deputy Director General of Family Diversity in the General Directorate of Family Diversity and Social Services in the Spanish Ministry of Social Rights and Agenda 2030. So Felix, the floor is yours.
¿Se oye ahora? Sí, mejor, gracias. Sí, buenas tardes. Vamos a retomar las sesiones.
Hello, good afternoon. We are going to start with the sessions on the advancing quality standards and evidence-based practice with the families in Europe. The interventions with families are very sensitive because normally our working material is the life of families, that they're subject of rights, and especially when we deal with minor and young people, that we have to maintain the different situation of vulnerability, risk, and we have to orient and to promote changes in the different relationship of families. So this means that the responsibilities of the professionals, of the teams that are supporting families, it is very important. So we cannot allow this intervention to professionals that have not had a good quality and surveillance control. The same as it would not be a good idea to implement public health methodology that has not been approved on basis of different controls and efficiency. We shouldn't facilitate that these actions were not based on evidence and on quality. In social science in general, and specifically in these theories, we have to underline the quality standards and evidence-based practice. We have seen much of the scientific-based evidence in Europe. It's very heterogeneous. Families are very different depending on the socio-economic environment in which they live in the different countries. But we do have legal tools, professional and economic tools that facilitate this new approach, which is very important for the political responsibles, and in order to see what are the programs that we have to foster and to guarantee new funding for these policies in order to be more efficient from the social and economic viewpoint. So in this session, we are going to see the different approaches on the tools and strategies that are being implemented in Europe in order to implement the quality and the different actions that are necessary in order to improve. So without any further ado, we are going to give the floor to Ana Catarina Canario from the Oporto University in Portugal.
on quality standards and evidence-based programs by Working Group 3, and I'll start presenting the position of Eurofamnet on quality standards and evaluation strategies in family support programs. So we have two outputs on this matter. The first one is a paper in progress still, and the other one is already available as a deliverable from the action, which you can access by scanning the QR code you have in the presentation. So in our work, we see family support programs as a wide range of activities targeting families and parents that have a clear structure, set goals, defined means and methods, and a structure or guideline to assess outcomes that aim to promote health, well-being, and the development of children. So the proposed quality standards for family support program are built around 5 fundamental considerations that guide program formulation, program delivery, program evaluation, and then dissemination. And these 5 fundamental considerations are being responsive, feasible, ethical, reflective, and sustainable. As for our proposed quality standards for program formulation, there must be a clearly defined theoretical model, clearly stated objectives. Also, there must be a standardized delivered, evidence-guided by previous research, developmentally appropriate for the ages of the children being targeted, responsive to the needs of the target groups, participatory, and allow for the parents to develop skills that help them support their families in the best possible ways. Also, for program implementation, we believe that, first of all, the needs of the families should be evaluated, and also the organization readiness to implement the intervention. After that being established, then this program can be selected, and then there must be an implementation team that develops and fits to an implementation plan that includes the participation of the practitioners, stakeholders, and the families involved, with staff training considered, and also that monitors fidelity and allows for the continuous improvement of the program on itself. Our position about the strategies for the effective evaluation of parenting support programs, we believe that they could be applied to all stages of program workflow under a pluralistic approach. So in this, what we need to evaluate at the different stages are the accessibility of the program, the conditions that the services have available, the needs and the resources that the families have, the short and long-term effects of the interventions, the fidelity of the implementation, the way the families engage with the programs and the interventions, their effectiveness, trying to understand to whom and under which circumstances the families benefit the most from the interventions delivered, and of course the costs, benefits, and utilities under an economic approach, evaluation approach, And of course, finally, the way the program is kept and sustained over time in real-world settings. So, summing all up, we believe that our work has implications for practice, namely by allowing a better understanding on which specific programs should be delivered to families according to their needs and characteristics, of course, following a family-centered approach. And the implications for policymaking, of course, include the enhancement of collaborative and bidirectional collaborations between families, professionals, policymakers, and also universities or academics. And we advocate for evidence-based programs as resources that should be available in communities to promote families' well-being and, of course, the best child development possible. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ana Catarina.
Thank you very much, Ana Catarina. And now We are going to give the floor to Maria Jose Rodrigo from La Laguna University from Spain.
I'm very glad to be here and to present our work on the adoption of evidence-based standards in the cost action countries, because we decided to do a survey with 20 countries, as you will see. That was a topic not very well known, because we have, although at the European level, there is a great commitment and great emphasis on the idea of evidence-based practices, but then there is not much information on the way the countries are really endorsing these kind of evidence-based practices. And so it was a need of analyzing and examining in an empirical way what was the situation, at least in the countries that we sampled. And so, in this sense, it is very important to see that these kind of things have to be approached empirically and not just suppose that they are doing all the best. Because, we have a special commitment with something that is very important, which is the inequality that may happen because of this kind of lack of quality support in the practices and all the programs and all the things they are doing. And so in this study, what we started with conceptualizing what does it mean to endorse these evidence-based practices, and that was the idea of gathering some strategies that we thought that were very important on that regard. And this strategy has to do, first of all, with the collaboration, trilateral collaboration. As you may see this morning, we have some examples on that, in which we have the policymakers, we have the researchers, we have the practitioners, stakeholders also, and that is very, very important for that. But it's also crucial to perform translational efforts to reach consensual guidelines that has to be somehow work out and coordinate across sectors, because it has to be a kind of tool, assessment tool, that may help all the sectors. But it's also important in this regard to have an official recognition of this kind of efforts made in these directions. Because in other ways, you can have the kind of professionals that are really burned out for being so innovative and so creative that nobody understands what they are doing. And so they remain somehow isolated and do not receive any positive feedback of what they are doing. It is also important, the idea of professional training on that, because we have to establish a sort of common language, common sense of what they are doing in terms of the best of practices and in terms also the kind of competences that are involved on that. And finally, it's important to disseminate. It's critically key. The dissemination is very important, not only for the professionals around, but also for the society at large. And these are the countries. We had, I don't go to go into the details, but we got countries from the European Union, already members of the European Union, but also we got candidate countries, which is, I think, one of the samples in which we have more representation on that, and also non-UA countries, in case of United Kingdom and Israel. And we developed a sort of respondents from these countries, but not for anyone, but because we got some supportive network to gather this information with reliability. And then we perform a cluster analysis that all of you probably will know, that allows to categorize the responses in terms, in our case, we try to make it in terms of the advances, of the situation of the advancement towards the EBP adoptions, and in a cumulative way, because we wanted to have a clear-cut profiles of responses, but going in the same directions. And so, for instance, we found out that there is at the level of the legal and policy and recommendations and all the kind of things that important, all of them got a high level of responses. That was very nice, because that means that is clearly assumed in the system, at least at the legal and policy level. But it's not frequent, for instance, to have local services that are supporting the families. Not only then the percentage of responses reduce, as you may see. There is not much recognition or acknowledgement of these EBP guidelines. There is not also so much professional training. At least it's a middle percentage, and also other sectors rarely use in cross-sectorially this kind of tools or consensual guidelines. But a few of them, they are able, and then you see the reduce for the percentage. At least they are able to get this stable trilateral collaboration. But look at the percentage. The EBP guidelines are also established or fully adopted, which is also very important. Also, there is a sort of recognition of the value of applying the EBP's practices, and then the cross-sectoral use, and also the training and the dissemination. But look at the percentage. And what we did was to make a correspondence between the countries and these profiles. And then we got the final disposition of the countries in terms of this progression. Corresponding to the initial steps, we got mainly non-member countries, which makes sense because they already have all these assume and endorse all these dispositions, but not much. I mean, they are at the baseline, with the exception of France, which is a member country. And then the other ones in the middle corresponds to member countries, which also makes sense, and also Israel. Israel was placed here. And as advanced levels, you have also member countries, and in this case, United Kingdom too. So it's interesting also to remark that when you think about other kind of classifications, for instance, this kind of public spending in informal with family, benefits, it's just another matter, because we have countries that in fact are the high-ranking level of investment, and then other ones are at the lower level. So, I mean, it's another type of ranking, and it is good in some sense, because it means that all of us, although we are not high-ranking countries, we are able to do these kind of efforts in the practice. And so that is my finished remarks. It's very important to establish this trilateral. I think that makes a difference. Not bilateral and not unstable one, but trilateral stable collaborations at this level. It's also very important to provide services, and these services are cross-sectoral. That is also very, very crucial, and also to give training to the professionals, also to arrive to these guidelines consensus, engage across sectors, as I said, and finally, I think that this is crucial, and we are not yet fully done this in Spain, I have to say, the endorsement of the inclusions of the family participation in these matters, because we have, of course, we have family associations, but really go directly and asking and having the feedback for these families is still an issue to come. But we are aware of that, but we think that this should be done like this, because we have subjects of rights, and we need to also embark all these families in this way of getting a good quality for the family support. Thank you.
Sí, muchas gracias, María José. Tiene la palabra ahora Sonia Birne, de la Universidad también de La Laguna.
Now we are going to give the floor to Sonia Birne from the La Laguna University.
Evidence-based practices at a national level were identified, a second step was needed to support professionals and policy-making institutions in family support. So we had two clear aims. The first aim was to produce a catalog of evidence-based European programs that were culturally relevant and responsive to different national needs and are available for professional communities. But we also had another aim, to produce a catalog of sound evaluation tools in family support areas. For this purpose, we developed one instrument, the Family Support Program Survey, according to the international quality standards of evidence-based programs in family support that were presented before. All the programs were identified by MC members and the data collected by Eurofamnet national network from the countries that are taking part of our action. And from a pluralistic approach and trying to approach all that cultural diversity and also all the different levels of evidence that the programs could have, we had to establish clear criteria of including and excluding programs. All the programs that we have searched for had to have all these inclusion criteria. The first one have a clear authorship, where the specific author is identified, or if it is an adaptation of another language, both authors identified, have a clear theoretical background. The structure need at least 3 sessions to be considered a program, and have any kind of written report of the results. We consider any kind, it doesn't have to be a scientific report, but have a report of the results. We also identified some exclusion criteria, and if any of these ones is met by the program, it has to be excluded, such as it's not clear who is the organization behind the program, the target population are adults but not related to parenthood or family issues, or there are unknown contents or methodology. So once we have selected the program, all the information in the country was taken in account in relation to 8 specific topics. The first one is the program identification, where we search for authors, language, and many other issues. Program description, where we know who is the target population, target group, target age of children, if it's manualized or not, and even the expected outcomes that the program will have. And the next topic is the program implementation, where we search not only for the mode of delivery, if it was face-to-face, online, a mixed mode of delivery, also the setting where it was implemented, the adaptation needed, and any kind of session monitoring that they took part in. In the program evaluation, we search for 2 different things. On one hand, the design, where we include the number of trials, but also any kind of design from that pluralistic approach that we were talking about. We include RCTs, but we include also quasi-experimental design, pilot studies, etc. And the other part of the program evaluation is about evaluation tools. In evaluation tools, we search for all the instruments used to evaluate the program in 5 different categories: instruments related to parents, children, couple and families, communities, and for the program itself. We also search for the type of assessment of each of these instruments, who is the respondent of that instrument, and also the validity and reliability of that instrument. The next topic was the program impact, where we explored the kind of analysis that were performed to evaluate the program, but also the real outcomes that were obtained with it. The next one is the dissemination readiness, where we search for any kind of scientific dissemination of the program that could be papers in scientific journals, but could also be conferences, any kind of internal report or whatever, but also the sustainability of the program, because we consider that that's an important matter to consider that the program is a good instrument to use or not. And the last one, the documentation, where we have a summary of the program, but also any kind of supportive documentation where we can find more information available from the program. Well, with all this information, we were able to produce two big tools. The first one was the catalog on family support programs. That is a very useful tool for professional practice, where you can find 193 family support programs that were developed in 17 different European countries. It's a dynamic tool, so you can find in our FAMNet website. This dynamic tool is available for anyone that would like to use it, and you can search for the programs that really meet your needs. You can search for language, you can search for operating domain, you can search for target group, target age of children, target outcome, and also for mode of delivery. We could also develop a specific catalog of sound evaluation tools in family support that is also available at the website. And it's another dynamic tool where you can search by different matters, and you can find 235 different instruments to evaluate programs that, according to the target population that we described before, it could be organized in 114 instruments to measure parent changes, 62 about children, 18 about couple and families, 7 instruments for communities, and 34 instruments to evaluate the program itself. As you can see, this dynamic tool could be searched also by language, but inside the different outcomes that we have different options. Inside parent domain, we can find if it's about attachment, behavior, cognitive, quality of life, or whatever, in relation to community, ethic issues, integration, or in relation to programs, the fidelity, the responsiveness of the participants. You have a lot of options to find any instrument that could be useful for your professional practice. We try to make effort to give an overview or a picture of the kind of programs that are developed in Europe. So we prepared a kind of information synthesizing the main aspects. Most of the programs are fully manualized, the ones that we are included in our catalogs, mainly with national or international scope, and mainly delivered by public agencies. As you can see, there are some others, but mainly by public agencies. They are also mainly planned to obtain results at family and individual level more than any other. And most of them are aimed at selective population with parents as the main target group. With a cluster analysis, we could identify 3 main profiles of programs developed in Europe. We have identified a first profile we call universal programs, because these programs are aimed mainly at universal population, working with children, families, and communities at any age of the children, seeking to obtain results at a wide range of domains and target outcomes, but are mainly delivered at schools and home. We had another profile of programs aimed both at universal and indicated population, working mainly with parents and at early childhood. In this case, our programs focused on specific target outcomes, mainly related to reducing neglect or abusive parenting. And the third profile was aimed mainly at indicated population, working with parents more than with children, but at any age, and focus more in educational or health domains, and trying to focus mainly the setting at health services or centers. So we have 3 big profiles of programs delivered in Europe, and all of them are available in our website for any practitioner, researcher, policymaker to see what's going on in Europe.
Sí, muchas gracias. Tiene la palabra de nuevo
Thank you very much. We're going to give the floor once again to Ana Catarina Canario.
Three, work on the use of information and communication technologies in family support. So in this work, we did a narrative review, which is published in a journal, in a special issue on online family support and children's health and well-being. So we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the provision of family support online. However, this is not new. We know that the merit of using ICT in family support has been studied for several decades now. And the most frequently studied types of support are programs delivered to parents to promote, to reduce child mental health problems. So in our work, we did a narrative review where we had this purpose to illustrate how information and communication technologies was being used at the time in family support across Europe. And to do so, we gathered examples provided by our colleagues in Working Group 3, researchers and stakeholders on what they knew were the practices of interventions being delivered online and others. So gathering knowledge from inside the action, and then outside the action, we ran searches in scientific and grey literature, general search engines, and also social media websites to know what we could find on the use of ICT in family support across Europe. So we actually found that ICT was being used in two ways. There were professionally led support, where professionals prepared and implemented interventions and gave support to families online. And on this, we found that this could be found in a way of psychoeducational websites and apps. We found several examples, such as the Spanish website Familias en Positivo, the social media web pages for Parenting for Long Life Health, and the UNICEF Bibo app for parenting and child development. We also found self-directed online parenting programs, that mostly had written materials, videos, and assignments to be completed by parents. Examples were the intervention Comet, available in Sweden, and Family Doesn't End with a Breakup, available in the Czech Republic. And we also found support through video call, where programs were digitally delivered through video conferencing apps to parents in their homes. And here we found as examples some interventions from the Triple P system being delivered in Portugal, and also the intervention Growing Up Together online in Croatia. We also found that there were support being provided by peers, and in this is actually a form of support in which the users can receive information, have support, and give support to other parents, giving them assistance. And popular examples that we found in our review were social media groups and also instant messaging groups like WhatsApp or Telegram groups, where parents would ask for and receive support from each other. So with our work, we could see that there were implications for practice. Using ICT in family support has multiple advantages, including flexible scheduling with families and enhanced accessibility, also allowing to engage underserved families. And for policy making, we believe that the benefits of the use of ICT include the potential to reach more families, especially when this is combined with national developments that support families with their access to internet and devices that allow them to be online and receive the support they need. Thank you.
Tiene de nuevo la palabra Sonia Birne, por favor.
Let's hear Sonia Birne now, please.
All the advancing in quality standards and evidence-based programs in our network, trying to show that all the advances that we have been doing in the network, it has not been only been inside the network. We have opened all our work to outside the network through two different through different ways. One of them is with workshop with stakeholders, like bridging quality standards for evaluation with professional practice. where we could exchange with high-level politicians from Europe and try to find policy, practical implication, and also challenges to be able to adopt that evidence-based practice that Maria Jose was telling about before. And we have also developed training schools for new generation of researchers in this field, like how do we generate evidence in family parenting support around 3 main topics: evaluation outcomes, evaluation of implementation, and ICT in family support. That was also a great experience to know what was going on and new experiences in this field. I would like to finish our presentation with a short video of one of these experiences that is the training school.
This training school is a very important milestone. One of our capacity building objectives is to train the future generation of researchers, and I think this is a great milestone where we have been doing and we are doing and with an iterative manner, because it's not only that we are providing knowledge, outputs and training, but also these young researchers are interacting with our outputs.
Here we listen more than 20 approaches on families from different points of view.
What surprised me more is that there are differences between countries and between cultures, but there are also so many overlap between how we should intervene in families and how we can prevent problems within family.
I think it's really important. I think it's really exciting because what you get is a mixture of information and conversation, and the best brains in the room can share their own research and learn from each other. So I think they're really important events.
These are how best when our research is better, right? So the better our research is and the better our work is to implement then our findings, the more families benefit. So if we can increase the quality of what we do, which is research schools, which I really think we are doing, that definitely will ultimately also translate to the lives of families and their children.
Well, this is a great opportunity to meet the experts in the field of evaluation of parenting programs.
The thing that is more important, it's the connection. No other researchers, it's very, I think it's the most enriching experience.
So, but now I think I'm just in the right place, and the teams that are presented here are closely related to other research fields, and I think it's great to see some spillover effect over time, of course. So.
I'm taking, I think, new connections, new friends, and also I'm taking like a lot of information. So I think when you get home you have to kind of process everything and see what can you do, what you can do. But I think what I bring most is new learnings and new ideas. I think that's the main thing.
I was really surprised by the feeling of friendship and training that the people have inside this school, where it was a peer training place where we compare our work, our implementation to do better in our country and to improve the European project.
I think it's really important because we can talk about not only what the research has found, but how that can make a difference to the lives of families and the lives of children every day, and that's so important.
It has been great to see how senior researchers and young researchers have met together and tried to share their expertise, their knowledge, their methods, and find new ways on how to work with families, practitioners, politicians, and improve their research for future generations of European researchers that I'm sure that they will improve family support in the future.
Muy bien, para responder a todo.
Excellent. In response to all these matters, we've also invited Cecile Winkelman, Director of Families Foundation.
Congratulate you with the great work that you have been doing, and actually for the whole day what we have been hearing. It's really encouraging that there's so much emphasis on family support. I was part of the policy and practice group, so my name is Cecile Winkelman. I work for the Families Foundation in the Netherlands, and we are responsible for PPP, positive parenting, in the Netherlands. And as you might know, this is a program that has been implemented worldwide. It's quite a large program. We are over in 30 countries, and in the last 30 years, I think we have trained about 75,000 professionals. So we have not to boost, but just to say that we do have a lot of experience in how to relate to different contexts being implementing worldwide. And my personal emphasis is actually on cultural and religious diversity. So we spoke a lot about diversity here already in the sessions, diverse family structures, disabilities, inequality, which is very much linked also to cultural and religious diversity. So my response to what I've been hearing is from this angle. Next to my work for the Families Foundation, I've been working for 25 years in the practice of family support, and that's also, I would like to talk a little bit about that. In my view, the most important thing at this moment is to combine working with effective programs and reaching out to the communities. And that's why I was so happy with the emphasis on community-based organizations. This is the biggest challenge in the reality, as I call it, because we can have great programs, but if we don't reach the people who are really most in need of these programs, we are missing our target. And when I talk about community-based organizations, I mean organizations and professionals or volunteers who proactively go into the communities, who bring up, for instance, positive parenting, because a lot of parents are not aware of this theme. They have not yet thought about it so much. Professionals being part of the communities, so not just coming in for an intervention, but just being there all the time. And also the important thing of community-based organizations is that the link between informal and formal support of the families. So we could maybe even go a step further in not even saying community-based organizations, but community-led organizations. Because then we can also look at the organizational ownership of programs of intervention, and the voice of parents and children that we have already established, that we can still grow in that. One of the challenges is when you use evidence-based programs like PPP or any other program in community-based organizations, is that the psychological theories and concepts that we are using, the professionals that we train are not psychologists. So we need to always be very attentive and sensitive to this, that when we train nurses, doctors, community workers, social workers, they all have a different background, as was already mentioned in the morning. And our training, so we can give a great training, but the outcomes differ because of the concepts of where the professionals come from. So this, I think, is very important to pay attention to. And I was also very pleased with the research looking at the different countries and where we stand with evidence-based practice. And as the Netherlands, we are proud to be in the top category. But unfortunately, I can tell you that there's still work to be done. Also, we do have great programs available, but there are guidelines. We have a very good clearinghouse of to show actually the different levels of evidence that there are. But it is still up to the choice of organizations and municipalities to choose if they are going to use these programs. It would help if we could take a stand in this regard, and I mean we, and also in the governments. When we look at, again, at community-based organizations, one of the important parts is also to monitor your, as you have said, to monitor your results. But again, monitoring in community-based organizations is not a common practice. So also this needs some attention. And not only on a family level or organization level, but for instance on a regional level or a provincial level, so that you can really show what is the difference that we are making with the efforts that we are doing. And I was very interested in the tool also for the evaluation tools, because in my understanding, we still often use evaluation tools that are not really accessible for parents with a low literacy level. They are long questionnaires. So this makes it difficult for us really to know more about how we are really being effective in these communities. So it's very encouraging in the catalog to see 193 programs from 17 countries. So it shows that we are interested and we are doing the work. We are already on the ground delivering the programs. Maybe a more critical note is that I think by now we already know what positive parenting elements we need. We have so much research already. For me, what is the most important thing is how are we really going to do diverse sensitive delivery of evidence-based program. This is the key. As you said, the family inclusion. Community-based, community-led, that's important, but also the content of the positive parenting. How does it relate to the target groups that you are aiming for? Are you aware of the history of the groups that you are working with? For instance, their relation to authorities, their minority position, discrimination and racism. I would wish that one of the next steps after this great work that has already been done is in that direction, that we can include these elements in our evidence-based practice so that all parents and all families can really have access to the best way of parenting support. Thank you.
As the conflict between the mother and the daughter continue, the mother has sought the help of a social worker.
Finally.
Me ha costado trabajo.
It's been so hard to get all the way to this place. I just don't know if this will work at all. Also, I'm ashamed to tell my story to someone who's not in the family. I just don't feel comfortable having people understand or see what happens inside my home. But I feel cornered. I can't find hope anywhere. I don't even know why I'm here.
Hello, good afternoon, Mercedes. My name is Isabel. How are you? Okay, I see, I understand. Allow me, I'm going to talk with you. I would like to know a little bit, I'm the social worker. I would like you to tell me what is your social and family situation, just to have a quick summary, what can we do, what is your economic situation, the threats that you and the challenges that you find with your daughter.
I wouldn't even know where to start. We're not doing well. Not doing well. I don't even know if I can make it till the end of the month. I don't know if I can pay the rent. I fear we might get evicted. And my daughter, she's just not pulling through. I came to the city because I was unemployed in my hometown, and I thought the big city would make it easier for us.
But what was... So that you're in this situation, what was the reason? What happened?
Well, I had my life savings, so I put together a small business, a tiny thing, a small shop. But then the pandemic and lockdown happened, and I lost everything. We're alone. We have no relatives, no support. We're so alone. And I feel the worst mother in the world,
Don't worry.
Because my daughter just doesn't. I can't give her the things she needs.
Keep quiet, keep quiet. I'm going to try to put you in contact with another families with a very similar situation. I'm going to provide some psychological help. And if you agree, you go to the office. We are going to get all your information, your personal information, and we'll try to sort something out as soon as possible. Come with me, my darling, come with me, come with me. I'm sure that we will find a way out.
Creo que tenemos todavía.
Well, it looks like we still have time for some questions we got via the chat channel. Yes, there's a question here for Maria Jose. Ana Almeida asks,
Trilateral collaboration among countries differing not only geographically, but also political and social security traditions and services. What are underlying the mechanisms that trigger trilateral collaboration?
Yeah, well, it takes time. I mean, it was many, many years knocking at the doors and just waiting for the positive answers to introduce an evidence-based programs that nobody knows at that time. And then we began to receive some calls, and then in some calls I decided that the policymakers could be an important piece to also to take into account. And in that sense, I was not embarrassed anymore. And I thought that these kind of programs should be somehow covered under an organizational support. And that's why we started to scale a little bit, coming from the municipalities, then the autonomical communities in Spain, and then at the national level. And finally, we did it. And so, and that was I mean, it wasn't so difficult. It takes time, but at this level, you think that you are flying. I mean, you are flying because all the things you work, you study, you research, goes immediately to a good hands and has to be, of course, translated and get it into the real practice. Of course, it's not a direct translational effort, but finally you realize that good makes a difference, and then we see how we share the same languages. The same language. And that was very nice because we understand each other, and that happens also with the professionals too, because sometimes there is a big distance between our academic language and the professionals' language, not only because of the disciplines, but because of the world we live each other. So in that sense, we started to share languages, to share backgrounds, to share some aims and things that we had in common. And finally, we decided not to follow our respective prejudice about the others. Not always the politicians are dull, are insensitive. So it can, it can be sensitive. And we ourselves sometimes tell very, very, not very funny stories about the research we are doing. We are not doing a kind of research that has to be of interest for those translation into policy. So then we begin to adjust each other on that, and that was all. So I'm happy to tell that the story is not finished. We have a lot of things to be done, but I think we are in a good way.
Muy bien. Pues para acabar en tiempo.
Excellent. We have one last question that comes as to provide continuity.
4 years, what additional goals will they like to achieve?
Okay, if we'll have 4 more years, we hope so. I think that now that we have a picture of what is going on in the different countries that we are working with, now is the time to be helpful for that country. So now is the time to work with the national networks that have been built and seeing what are their needs, where's the next step that they have to achieve, because we cannot go to the highest levels. We have to go step by step and create guidelines or support them in the way that is needed to help them achieving and getting to the high advanced level that Maria Jose was saying before, trying to give them the support to be able to reach that high evidence-based practice levels at the national level, but also developing their own professional programs to help families. So give them the guidelines to have really clear evidence-based professional parenting programs, family support programs that are useful, not only for them, but for any other professionals in the field. Thank you.
Muy bien, pues muchas gracias a Ana Catalina.
Well, thank you very much, Ana Catalina, Maria Jose, Sonia, and Cecile, for your contributions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for this very interesting presentation to all of you. We will have another coffee break now. Also, make sure to check out the second round of posters that have been set up. And we will be here again at 4 for the next session.